After the birth of Islam early in the 7th century, the armies of the Semitic Arabs quickly conquered the whole of the Middle East, including Egypt in 642. Later in the century, they went on from Egypt to the rest of North Africa, converting the Berbers as they went. By the end of the century, the Arab Empire had reached Morocco. About the only section of the population not converted were Jewish communities, which had been in North Africa for several centuries. The Arab invasions, however, were not unopposed. Byzantine resistance resulted in the complete and final destruction of Carthage, and further west, in Algeria, there was considerable Berber opposition. Though the Berbers accepted Islam, there was a long period of anarchy and warfare. From Morocco, the Arab armies reinforced with Berbers and led by the Berber Tariq, moved on to Spain and conquered most of the country between 710 and 720. Apart from some areas in the north, the Moors, as they were called, remained masters of the Iberian Peninsula until late in the 11th century, and were not finally driven out until the 15th century. As time went on, and more came to Spain from Africa, the Moors in Spain became more Berber than Arab. Meanwhile in Morocco, the Berber tribes united in a series of Moorish dynasties, under the first of which Fez was founded as the capital towards the end of the 8th century. Fez became, and still is, the great intellectual and religious center of Morocco. When the Moors were finally expelled from Spain, intellectual refugees gathered in Fez. In the Arab world, divisions soon appeared. Rival families fought for the caliphate, and there was a serious split between the Shiites and the Sunnis. The Shiites held that the head of Islam must be a descendant of Ali and his wife Fatima, Muhammad's nephew and daughter. There was also a third sect, the Kharijites, who held that the caliph could be any believer fit for the office. They were at first numerous in North Africa, but few still remain. These family and religious rivalries were exemplified by events in Tunisia. At the end of the 8th century, a dynasty was founded by the Abbasids, who broke away from the ruling Abbasid Caliphate and extended their control over some of Algeria and Tripolitania. At the beginning of the 10th century, the Aghlabids were overthrown by the Shiite Fatimids, who claimed descent from Fatima. Later in the century, the Fatimids conquered Egypt and founded Cairo, from which they ruled for the next 200 years. In the 11th century, there was a renewal of Islamic energy in North Africa, accompanied by a further wave of Arab immigration. And at this time there arose in the Sahara a sect of fanatical Berber Muslims, the Almoravids. In about 1060 they founded Marrakesh and conquered Morocco, and then went on to Spain where they temporarily arrested the Christian reconquest. In the middle of the 12th century, some even fiercer and more intolerant Berber Muslims issued from the region of the Atlas Mountains in western and central Morocco, the Almohads. They extinguished the power of the Almoravids, and extended their empire in North Africa from Morocco as far as Tripolitania. The Almohads also followed in the footsteps of the Almoravids in Spain, from which they were not expelled until the middle of the 13th century, leaving the whole Iberian Peninsula in Christian hands except for Granada in the south. The empire of the Almohads in Africa then declined and gradually broke up. Separate dynasties were established in Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia and Tripolitania. This was how the Arabs conquered North Africa. For more of such videos from Critical Historian, subscribe to the channel, click the like button, and hit the notification bell.